Something extraordinary is happening on one of the holiest mountains on earth. Something that is stirring questions, awakening prophecies, and capturing global attention. The Mount of Olives, the ancient ridge that has witnessed kings, prophets, miracles, and the footsteps of Jesus himself, is cracking open. Deep fissures are spreading across its surface, and the ground seems to be shifting in ways we've never seen before. Scientists say it's natural, but believers around the world are asking a different question. What if it's not? What if we are watching prophecy align with reality right before our eyes? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear may change the way you look at the world, the Bible, and the times we're living in. We're going to journey across thousands of years of history, stand in the footsteps of David, Ezekiel, and Jesus, and uncover why this mountain, this very mountain, is at the heart of future prophecy. You're going to see how the ancient words of Zechariah describe a moment so powerful that the earth itself splits in two. And today, the ground is moving. This is not just a story about geology. This is about destiny. This is about a mountain that refuses to stay silent. This is about signs that may be pointing to something much greater than we've imagined. So don't look away, don't click away, because by the end of this video, you may find yourself asking the same question millions are asking right now. Are we witnessing the beginning of the greatest moment in human history? Let's begin. Recent cracks reported on the Mount of Olives have drawn global curiosity and concern because this is not just any location. It is one of the most spiritually significant mountains on earth. Over the past few years, visitors, researchers, and residents have noticed widening fissures running across portions of the slope, especially near older structures and burial areas. These cracks aren't just small surface lines. Some extend deep into the ground, showing signs of shifting layers beneath the mountain. As the terrain subtly moves, certain stones, pathways, and retaining walls appear to be separating, giving the impression that the land itself is under tension. Experts point to natural geological processes such as the Mount of Olives sitting near important fault lines connected to the Great Rift Valley system that stretches from Lebanon down to East Africa. Over time, underground pressure, seasonal water absorption, and soil expansion can create visible fractures. Israel's unique terrain combined with layers of soft rock and moisture-sensitive soil makes the area especially prone to movement. For scientists, this is simply part of the Earth's long-term geological story. Yet what captures the world's attention is not only the physical cracking, but the prophetic weight behind it. When cracks appear in a place so deeply tied to Scripture, people naturally wonder if something greater is unfolding. Travelers often describe a strange sense of significance when they see these separations in the earth, as if the mountain is preparing for something. Residents who have lived there for generations say they have never seen the ground shift in quite this way. Whether natural or spiritual, the phenomenon feels unusually timely. The Mount of Olives has always been a silent witness to biblical history, and now its changing surface is prompting fresh questions about what may be coming next. Zechariah 14:4 contains one of the most dramatic prophecies in the entire Bible, one that directly involves the Mount of Olives. The verse describes a future moment when the Messiah's feet will touch the Mount of Olives, causing it to split in two from east to west, forming a massive valley. This prophecy stands out because it links a physical, visible geological event with a divine moment in history. For centuries, believers, scholars, and historians have studied this passage, noting how specific it is. The location, the direction of the split, and the outcome are all clearly described. When recent reports of fissures and shifting ground appear on this very mountain, people naturally look back to this ancient verse with renewed intensity. The exact wording of Zechariah paints a vivid picture of a mountain responding to the presence of the coming king. It is not metaphorical language, but a literal description of the land itself splitting apart. The idea that the Mount of Olives will physically move has always been understood as a real event tied to the culmination of human history. What makes this prophecy even more compelling is its precise alignment with the geography of Jerusalem. The Mount of Olives stands directly east of the Temple Mount, and an east-west split would create a natural passage toward the heart of the city. something Scripture implies will be part of future events surrounding the Messiah's arrival. Seeing cracks today does not automatically fulfill the prophecy, but the resemblance to its details sparks conversation. The direction of the fissures, the location of the movement, and the timing in our world filled with escalating tension all cause many to pause. Even those who approach prophecy cautiously acknowledge the unusual alignment between the ancient text and the modern physical condition of the mountain. The Mount of Olives carries a depth of biblical history unlike almost any other place, making the recent attention on it far more meaningful. For thousands of years, this mountain has been a setting where kings, prophets, and the Messiah himself walked, prayed, and wept. Its soil has absorbed the footsteps of some of the most significant figures in Scripture. When David fled from his own son Absalom, he crossed the Mount of Olives in tears, grieving the betrayal and the weight of national turmoil. That moment marked the mountain as a place of sorrow, refuge, and deep human emotion. Centuries later, the prophet Ezekiel saw the glory of God depart from the temple and rest upon this very mountain before ascending. This powerful vision symbolized God's presence lifting from Jerusalem due to Israel's disobedience, making the Mount of Olives the final point where divine glory lingered before leaving the city. The mountain's significance grows even stronger in the New Testament. Jesus spent countless hours on the Mount of Olives, teaching his disciples, delivering prophecies, praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, and weeping over Jerusalem. It was also the place where he ascended into heaven, with angels promising that he would return in the same way. This makes the Mount of Olives not only a historical site, but a prophetic landmark tied directly to the return of Christ. The mountain becomes a bridge between past and future, between events that have shaped faith for millennia and those still awaited by believers, because so many foundational moments happened here. Every physical change on the mountain feels weightier. When cracks appear or the ground shifts, people don't see it as just geology. They see movement on a mountain that has been central to God's story since ancient times. Its history makes every sign, every tremor, and every alteration feel purposeful and connected to something greater. The Eastern Gate, also known as the Golden Gate or Gate of Mercy, stands as one of the most symbolically charged structures in Jerusalem, positioned directly across from the Mount of Olives. It forms a prophetic axis that believers have studied for centuries. This gate is unique among all the gates of Jerusalem because it is completely sealed shut. Historical records indicate it has been closed for nearly 500 years, ever since it was sealed during the Ottoman period, while the official historical explanation is that it was closed for security and structural purposes. The deeper layers of its significance come from Scripture and long-held expectations about the Messiah's arrival. Many Jewish traditions teach that the Messiah will enter Jerusalem from the east, passing through this very gate. Christians believe that Jesus, who once entered Jerusalem from the Mount of Olives, will one day return along the same path. This shared expectation makes the Golden Gate a focal point of hope, anticipation, and prophetic importance. Its position facing the Mount of Olives is not accidental. It aligns perfectly with the geography described in biblical prophecy. When Jesus made his triumphal entry into Jerusalem, he approached from the Mount of Olives, crossing the Kidron Valley and ascending toward the temple area. The Golden Gate stands exactly along that path. Some rabbinical writings and Christian teachings point to this gate as the very portal through which the coming king will enter. Because of this, its closure has long been interpreted symbolically, as though earthly authorities attempted to block the arrival of the Messiah. Even the presence of a Muslim cemetery placed directly in front of the gate has been connected to attempts to prevent a priestly Messiah from crossing, since priests cannot enter cemeteries according to Jewish law. All of this gives the Golden Gate an atmosphere of quiet tension, as if it is waiting. Facing the Mount of Olives, sealed and silent, it stands like a prophetic door locked in time until the moment when history shifts and the king arrives. The Mount of Olives is one of the rare places on earth where the spiritual expectations of three major world religions converge, creating a unique landscape of hope, prophecy, and sacred memory. For the Jewish people, This mountain has long been associated with the coming of the Messiah and the resurrection of the dead. Thousands of Jewish graves cover its slopes, because many believe that when the Messiah comes, those buried there will be the first to rise. The mountain faces the Temple Mount and the Eastern Gate, making it the expected starting point of divine redemption in Jewish tradition. Generations of rabbis, scholars, and families have honored this belief by choosing this mountain as their final resting place, turning it into the largest and oldest Jewish cemetery in the world. For Christians, the Mount of Olives holds profound importance because it is tied directly to the life and mission of Jesus. It is where he taught his disciples about the end times, where he prayed in agony before his crucifixion, and where he ascended into heaven. The angel's declaration that he would return in the same way has made the Mount of Olives a central point in Christian expectation of the second coming. Believers see it not only as a place of Jesus' past ministry, but as the likely site of his future return, linking the mountain to the climax of biblical prophecy. In Islam, the Mount of Olives is also connected to the Day of Judgment. Islamic tradition teaches that the final reckoning will take place near Jerusalem, and the Mount of Olives is part of that sacred geography. Some Islamic writings even speak of a bridge or path over the valley separating the mountain from the Temple Mount, a significant detail in eschatological teachings. Because of this, Muslims also view the mountain as holy ground tied to the final unfolding of God's plan for humanity. This shared reverence makes the Mount of Olives a spiritual crossroads where the hopes of Jews, Christians, and Muslims intersect, each waiting for a future moment that centers on this ancient and deeply sacred mountain. The question surrounding whether the cracks on the Mount of Olives are natural or prophetic has become one of the most discussed topics among believers and researchers alike. Scientists point to well-known geological factors, noting that the Mount of Olives lies near fault lines connected to the long Syrian-African rift. Over centuries, pressure builds beneath the surface, causing shifts that can lead to visible cracks. Seasonal rains seep into the soil and expand the softer limestone beneath, creating further tension and movement from a scientific viewpoint. These fissures reflect the normal behavior of a shifting landscape in a region known for seismic activity. Engineers who inspect the area often mention that the old structures, ancient tombs, and stone terraces contribute to vulnerability, making cracks more noticeable as the ground subtly adjusts. But beyond the geological explanations lies the spiritual question that captures global attention. For many believers, the Mount of Olives is not just a mountain. It is a prophetic stage. When they see new openings in the earth or widening fissures, they connect them to the dramatic prophecy in Zechariah 14:4, where the mountain splits at the Messiah's arrival. The idea that these cracks could be early signals or reminders sparks both curiosity and awe. Some interpret them as divine nudges, subtle warnings that time is moving toward a climactic moment foretold long ago. Others see them as signs meant to awaken hearts, calling people to pay attention to God's unfolding plan. Even those who take a cautious approach to prophecy admit the timing feels compelling. In an age filled with global turmoil, earthquakes, wars, and moral confusion, the sudden interest in cracks forming on such a spiritually loaded mountain feels significant. While no one can claim with certainty that these cracks fulfill prophecy, the symbolic weight they carry is undeniable. The combination of natural movement and prophetic expectation makes every shift of the mountain feel like it could be part of something far greater than geology alone. The Mount of Olives has always stood as a silent giant, watching every rise and fall of Jerusalem. But today it no longer stands silent. The very ground is shifting, the ancient stones are moving, and cracks are stretching across its surface like a message written in the earth itself. Whether these fissures are natural tremors or divine reminders, they lead us back to one unshakable truth. This mountain is central to God's story, past and future. Here kings wept, prophets witnessed glory, and Jesus himself walked, prayed, and ascended. And according to Scripture, this very mountain will shake again when the King returns. We may not know the exact moment, but the signs around us call us to be awake, watchful, and ready. The world is trembling, nations are shifting, and now even the Mount of Olives seems to speak. Perhaps this cracking is not the final fulfillment. Perhaps it is a whisper, a warning, a reminder that history is moving toward its greatest moment, and whether the cracks deepen or not, the promise remains: the King will stand upon this mountain again. So as we end this message, let your heart stay open, your spirit stay alert, and your hope stay anchored in the one who never changes. The earth may shake, but God's promises stand unbroken. Thank you for joining me on this powerful journey across prophecy, history, and the signs unfolding before our eyes. May this message strengthen your faith, sharpen your awareness, and fill you with courage for the days ahead. Stay blessed, stay watchful, and may God guide you with wisdom and peace. Good luck on your path, and thank you for watching and supporting this work.